everybody. I'm Chris.
I'm Adrienne.
I'm Hannah.
What? Jimmy, where'd you go?
Transformation.
The new Jimmy. No, Hannah is... Who is Hannah?
Oh, well, you've heard her name before.
Yes, she's written in. And a big reason we started this back up again.
Yeah, long time fan
blame
of
her.
the podcast.
This is inspiration for everyone to be commenting and interacting with the show because you too could be replacing Jimmy.
Yeah, so Jimmy's just out this week, but Hannah in town from Minnesota. So, welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're here. Glad Jimmy's out for a week. No, so I wanted to start off. I played Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh
so
my gosh.
I got
okay.
it. I had.
How many hours have you played?
Okay, here's the thing. Not many.
Okay,
So
all right.
I have paced myself. I've also
So
fallen
you've
asleep
gotten nowhere.
every night. I'm still in the first area. So it's like powers you get at the beginning. I've gotten 3 of the powers, so I can now transport through ceilings. That's my latest power.
We saw that on the commercial.
Yeah, it goes up. It's great. So no, but I mean, so far, like it's everything I want as a sequel to Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's
Good.
There's more stuff, and it's fun playing it now because like my youngest son, he's 5, and he's like getting into video games, and so he'll be sitting there and be like, go over there. Do this, like, see that thing, go to that, like, go in that cave, go back. And, like, even when we're not playing, he's like, hey, I want you to go back in that minecart cave and do this thing.
Yes,
like,
that's like my memories of watching you play as a kid, too.
And so so my oldest daughter, Quincy, she's been playing, and she, like, makes him go away.
She does, because he wants her to do stuff.
Yeah, he's like, oh, do this. But, yeah, it's so good. And, like,
that's awesome.
I want to sink more time.
My question is, are you someone that's doing the main quest? Are you just exploring, or are you going from like helpless townsperson to helpless townsperson?
So I haven't even left the main part yet. So if you play the
you
first
haven't
one,
even met a
like
townsperson.
There's these little robot guys that talk to you. So I'm getting all the stuff that you need to like get off of the main thing, and then I'll start. I'm very much a like just find something and explore it.
Okay.
So I would just be walking along and like, oh, I want to.
Cool.
I see that and I go and do it. So, but that's why I love. Did you guys play the first one? I know you did.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, I'm a quest person. Like I need something to do.
Okay, well, yeah, but that's why I love the first one, because you'd be like, okay, I'm going to go do this, or I see that thing, and like on your way there, you're like, oh, what? There's a heart-shaped lake. I'm going to go check that out and see. And then there's like a whole quest around that lake.
Well,
yeah,
like, that's true.
Or you're like,
have so many quests, side quests.
Yeah, and so but even then, like, but this one I hear there's lots of caves. And I like things like that. Just I love caves in games, like because you're like I know there's something in there. I'm going in, and so and apparently like some are really small and some are like really big. So I'm excited to just be walking along, going on my quest, and like I see a cave. I'm like, oh, I'll go check this out real quick. And then 4 hours later, that's why I love Breath of the Wild, because like you never did the thing that you were like set out to do, and that's what they like how they designed the game. So I'm excited. Like it's but I take it to bed with me at night, and then I fall asleep before I even play it. And so that's the great thing about the Switch is you can play it in your bed. But I have not yet.
You're still trying to get there.
You break your nose. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it falls on your face. Yeah.
So, but so that's what I've sort of been doing this week.
Yeah.
And then, but
last week, or was it last episode? We talked about Jonas Brothers album.
We did. Yeah. The new Jonas Brothers.
Yeah. And
do you like the Jonas Brothers?
You know what? I was with Adrienne at Les Miserables.
Oh, in London.
Having my heart changed about the Jonas Brothers.
We came out changed, ladies.
So go see him on Broadway.
See him on Broadway.
What's it called in London?
West End.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not
So
cultured.
yeah, go see it.
Like these
Anyway,
two.
but we talked about the importance of lyrics and listening to lyrics and how they can infiltrate your brain. Even if you just like say, oh, I just like the music, I don't pay attention to the lyrics. But you have found a quote this week.
Yeah, so there's a guy named Tom McDonald. He's I don't think I've heard a full song by him. Like I've seen clips and stuff. He looks like a guy that you would run away from if you saw him on the street, because he's got like tons of piercings, like his face is tattooed a bunch and stuff. But I think he's like a conservative rapper or something. It's like he's very interesting. But he posts a lot of like shorts or TikToks or whatever, and like makes fun of culture. So, but he was talking. He was being interviewed, and he was talking about how he got into rap and all that stuff. But he's like, when I first started, I wanted to like look at the people around me, and so he started listening to a bunch of rap music and stuff like that as he was getting into it. And he's like, they all sang about drugs and drinking and sex and all this stuff. And he's like, so I like started going down that lifestyle because I thought that's what I had to do to be a rapper. And so he said now like that he's like, he had to go to rehab and all this stuff. And he said, I don't want to make music that's going to damage other people like the music I listened to damaged me. And so he was like, I went through this whole thing because I listened to certain music and like bought into that lifestyle. I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Because because the worldview or the stuff we take in does matter. And so that's why we want to kind of look at the things that we take in and all that stuff, because when you don't think through it, it becomes it can become harmful to you. And so make sure that like the things you take in, like you're thinking about them. Like, so, but
Hannah, do you have anything that you had to stop either listening to or watching?
For sure. I'm like, what do I pick? I think there's a lot of things. I mean, I feel like one thing is just the tone of things. This is more on like the internet or like watching videos or memes or whatever, is like, if I watch a lot of stuff that is mocking, then I walk through the world and almost everything I'm like, I like seeing things that I want to make fun of, you know? And I feel like that's something where it may not be like bad content or whatever, but it's just a tone. And like watching, you know, comedy or whatever, it's like, how does this change? You know, then I interact with like, you know, Christian stuff or whatever, and I'm just cringing all the time because I've been watching things that is nothing but pointing out the stuff that's not cool, you know? And I get self-conscious and like all this stuff. And then for a while I tune out of it. And I just don't even have that voice in my head. So I feel like tone of things like that gets to me for sure.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
did you have something?
I asked that question.
All the hard questions.
I know, without even thinking about it myself. You go first, Chris, and I'll think of something.
I've stopped watching.
I will say, I was watching New Girl.
Yeah.
And
you told us it was so good, and we started watching it. We got 3 episodes in. We're like, this is not great.
Whoa. Okay. Well, guys. Okay. I'm sorry.
There's a whole episode about she saw a person naked, and then he had to see her naked or something, like to bring balance to the force. It was like the third episode. It was something weird. I was like, what is happening?
No, and I will say it did reach a point for me because we already talked about this. Go back to episode 1 again if you need. We're not like recommending these things, but. Everyone has like points and limits or, you know, things to keep in mind. And so, and like, there's an episode, I don't even really remember the content of it, but I just thought this just crossed my lines and I'm not going to watch it anymore. So I had to stop.
You liked that show quite a bit, from what I remember. So, and I heard a lot of people that like that show.
People.
Yeah, but like some of the quirkiness of the character, like is. Yeah, you relate to. But and with Tom McDonald, I don't know his stuff, so I'm not recommending. Like, again, we're not recommending stuff, but it's stuff that we've heard. And so, for me, it was, what's the show with Tina Fey and
30 Rock?
30 Rock.
30 Rock.
So, 30 Rock, what?
I'm familiar.
So we watched like several seasons and then had a kid. And then after, like, so we took some time off from the show and then we came back and we started watching again. And I was like, oh, this is a lot like dirtier than I remember. And it may have been that way the whole time. And I just, now that I had a child into the world. Like
I that's one of my things is once I had a kid, there was a lot of stuff I stopped watching.
Like, oh.
Not necessarily because it was terrible content or whatever, but it was like it involved kids. And all of a sudden I cared a lot that it involved children in it.
Yeah.
And the way that they were either treating kids or whatever, it just like struck me differently.
Yeah, 30 Rock had that punch a kid of the week. No, there's nothing in that. Like every week there's a kid walking by, they punch him. No, but yeah, just the content and I don't know if it was that way the whole time, but like, because sometimes with shows like it starts off one way and then like it slowly gets more, like and all that stuff. And so, and I hate it because that show had great writing and was like very like quick-witted and funny, but like it got to a point, and we were several seasons in, and so we did watch a lot of it, but I was kind of like, oh, I'm not gonna watch this anymore because it's inappropriate. So, I love comedy, and so that's what bothers me because there's comedians and stuff. I'm like, man, their stuff is really funny, but like just some of the negativity and stuff, and like just worldview that's in some of that stuff. Now you're like, ugh, I can't really like if they cuss some, like okay, that's one thing, but if it's like filthy or just
vulgar,
like, yeah, you're like, you don't need to do that. So,
well, I think you have also like an assessment of yourself. Because that's why I was feeling like if I walk out in the world, I leave my phone behind and I interact and it's with me, like the voice is in my head. Yeah. I feel like that's a good gauge because we can't really know where a different person's at. I mean, you guys are really clear about that with your disclaimer. It's like we don't know what every person, how it affects them and everything. So one person watches 3 seasons, one person watches 3 episodes. Like it just changes. But also the same person on like a different day is like, yeah, this is not helpful right now, Yeah. So I think partially it's like being a little bit more suspicious of yourself than of just the creators of these things. It's like, yeah, I'm just not for this is not good for me.
This isn't for me. But like with worldview stuff, like everything pushes worldview, and so it's just interesting watching, like now with kids, like watching it through their eyes of like what are they going to take from this and what are they seeing from that. So there's I talked to like Gremlins, they made a cartoon of it, the old 80s show. And so we watched the first episode and it's actually really good. It's on Max. I would recommend that, but I've only seen the first episode. But in it, there's a grandfather that basically goes against what the parents are telling their son to do, and so and the son will be like, "No, I need to do this what my parents said," and then he'll like be like, "Oh, come do this instead," and kind of like pull him away. And I was like, "That's not good," but you kind of see, like in it, you see that that's not good. But I don't know if my kids understand like, oh, that's not a good way to live, or like if somebody's telling you to do the wrong thing, you still need to go and do the right thing. But like the grandpa, you're like, he's a grandpa, but he's kind of this eccentric weird guy or whatever. So, but it was a fun watch. But like I'm watching through my kids' eyes and seeing like, okay, what are they picking up from this, and are they picking up any of it? And I'll try to talk to them afterward about stuff, and they're like, Dad, what are we going to talk about? I was like, because I want you to take in good content. So, but
don't you know I have a podcast, kids?
Yeah. Hey, Quincy listens, so thanks for listening. So we're not doing a Florida foible today.
Time for Minnesota
foible.
Yeah. So Hannah, you got a foible for us from the great state of Minnesota.
This is hot off the presses. So, all right. So I'm from northern Minnesota. I got on the plane to come here, and while I was in the TSA line, for security, there were these 2 older women behind me in line, and they were talking about like a family member, a brother, a cousin, or someone who's really mad. And the one woman goes, "Well, I tell him they could have chosen a photo of him with his kids. They could have chosen a photo of him with his wife. Instead, he wanted a picture with your moose for his funeral slideshow." And they're like, "I think you should be honored." And it took me a second to realize that it was like, there's a guy who shot a moose and his friend took a picture with it, and it's his, like, this is the photo I want to be remembered by, as if he shot the moose. And so the guy is offended,
mad, like,
because he's like, he's
going to his grave with this moose.
And I was like, and this woman is like, aren't you honored? Like, it could have been him and his kids.
He wanted a fake moose picture. Oh man, I hope it was made into those blankets that you get like at funerals. It's like those giant mural blankets, and it's like this guy and this moose that he didn't even kill.
Like, that man like walks in, he's like, he didn't even kill that moose. He stands up. The funeral scandal.
Moose.
Yeah. Oh man.
I was trying to think of equivalents for this because not everyone is a hunter. But like if you had baked something or you had made something and they took a picture with it as if they had made it, and then it was like, I want to be remembered for this moment.
Yeah.
And you're like,
it's the end screen of Zelda, and Shepard's like,
yeah, you're like, yeah, you're taking credit for something you didn't even do. But then like to ask for that at your funeral,
right?
Like I want this, and like I mean, imagine the kids are like,
yeah.
You want that in the slideshow? Like, And that would be great. Wait, but aren't there more than like one picture in a slideshow?
I can't remember the
It might
word.
have just
It was
been,
like
like,
it was
the
like
one
in
that-
memory of, you know, behind the casket or
because
something.
like there's always the in memory of, and like
Yeah.
even in the bulletin or whatever they
Oh,
give you the
yeah.
program.
It's just him and his moose. I like that. Not even his moose.
That is so
Exactly.
Minnesota.
I know. That's great. Is there a lot of moose hunting in Minnesota?
Well, no, there's not like a ton of moose anymore. Although I did see
That
one
guy
a couple weeks ago.
Got them all. What? You just saw one?
Yeah.
And there's a wolf in her yard.
Yeah, this is sounding really extreme.
She's
The day
so-
before I
she's
came
from
to Indiana,
Minnesota.
there was a black wolf in my yard trying to get my
What?
chickens and ducks.
Oh wait. I have ducks, so that's okay. But chickens and ducks, I gotta draw a line somewhere. We did find a dead possum in our garage, and we're not sure how. It was a
Ooh,
baby
what?
one, and it was like right
Aw.
at the front of the garage, and so I have no idea. Like it didn't get smashed by the garage, but it was just like laying there, and we're like, Angela, because I was closing the garage, she's like, "Wait, there's a dead possum." I'm like, "What?" And there was just this little possum laying in the front of our
Aw.
garage, but I don't know how it got in there, and because if it got in somehow, I don't know how it
Yeah.
didn't get out. But like,
Trying to
we've-
steal your AirPods.
yeah, probably. I know. That's what I said. I think that guy was trying to leave a message. If you didn't hear the AirPods
It's a
story,
thread.
he's
It's a
like,
thread.
he put a possum there.
Thread.
It said AirPods. But
What are the classic wild animals of Evansville?
Possums, for
Possums?
sure.
oh yeah,
I've never seen
We
one.
had
We
some
have a-
live under our house, in our old house.
A groundhog
They made a
lives
nest.
under our shed.
There are a lot of rabbits. Our garden has tons of rabbits.
Are they all kind of
Falcons.
medium sized?
Falcons are
Falcons?
like big.
Okay.
Deer. There's a lot of deer.
Deer. Coyotes.
Yeah, every once in a while there's a
Yeah.
coyote.
Yeah.
Coyote. A friend of mine lived on the north side, and he found wolf pups. They were 100%
Oh, my
wolf, but they
goodness.
didn't find the mom. But he had to turn them in because those are apparently illegal to have. So
Whoa.
it might be in our zoo now. I don't know where they put them.
Could be with other wolves. in
Shot
there.
them. Bambied those wolves.
Okay.
But oh yeah, so
Speaking of wolves,
wolves.
Uh,
Wolves. This is a good transition.
that's a good transition.
yeah.
But you won't know why until
Speaking
after
about your
you
hometown
read
being
this.
infested by beasts.
Yes. Yes. That's a really good transition.
Hometown. Oh yeah. Okay. Go for it.
We're here.
We're making an actual recommendation today.
We are. It is a book series. This is the main reason why Hannah's here today. Because we both
She came
read-
from Minnesota just to be on the
Yeah,
podcast to talk about this.
about this book series. It is
True
the
fan.
Wingfeather Saga. And so, okay.
Saga.
Actually, I have read the first 3. There are 4.
Oh.
And Hannah has finished it, though. So, Hannah, give us a brief,
I've read the first couple chapters
non-spoilery
twice of the first book.
synopsis.
I'm just going to do the premise of
Yeah.
the
Yes.
Wingfeather
The
Saga.
premise.
It's 4 books written by Andrew Patterson, and it is fantasy, kind of aimed at like middle school, but I would say whole family is probably going to
Whole
enjoy it.
family. Yeah. Yeah.
It follows 3 children and their mother and grandfather. And kind of the setup is like they live in this small town, sort of like a hobbity, a little village with a tavern, like
Hobbity.
you do.
I like that you
you know.
use that as an adjective.
Yeah,
Is that
but
hobbity is it okay?
unlike the Shire, it's already occupied by the villains. So it's got like these reptilian creatures that are, kind of there's this ominous shadow over the town because there's this black carriage. If you got to the second chapter, there's a black carriage that comes
Yes.
in just kind of
Takes the children.
suddenly and takes a child. And
Yeah.
there's
Which is
also
Which is a
creepy.
very creepy concept. Yeah.
yeah, I said it was for the whole family. If you get to the second chapter, it will eliminate some of the younger kids. You're like, okay, maybe this one's, you're not ready. But yeah, and then so there's kind of something wrong in the outer world. There's a ton of mystery about like this family and what's going on, and you get into that as you go on from there.
Yeah.
But you're mainly following like the 3 kids. The oldest brother's name is Janner, and from the beginning he has an arc where it's like he sort of dreams of going out and doing adventures, and he has an image of in his head, a physical picture, I think, of his father. He's like on a ship and he wants to be doing these things. But his grandfather and his mother are telling him like, you are responsible for the people in your life, for your brother and your sister. And so he is, it's just, it's really impressed upon him that
Yeah.
he is, supposed to take care of them, and he's staying in this town for a reason. And so that's kind of like the starting point for the character.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you read 3 of the books?
Yes,
Okay.
I have.
So so we started with my kids, and then it was due back at the library, and so we then we got it on book tape and listened to it in the car, and we got to like the same point both
Yeah.
times, and so I haven't read past that, but I want to. Like I've heard great things about it. I should just buy it, but we
You should just own.
Yeah.
You should own them.
It's one to own, I think.
Yeah, for us, I think after reading it and hitting points where there's, I wouldn't like put it on the same bar as like Narnia or whatever, but I would say it's like the closest modern.
And it's
thing
very
that's come
funny.
out. Yeah,
It's so funny.
It's really funny.
Because is it Clark the Nameless?
Yeah, there's Nag, Gnag.
Nag.
Oh, yeah.
It was like the nameless horror named Nag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like on the first page.
the Dark Sea of Darkness, is that the second book?
Yeah.
Or-
That's the first one, yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, but it's like there's funny names and stuff, and then there's a lot of like little footnotes, and the footnotes are very funny too. Like
but you can't. I am a footnote skipper.
You do what?
Yeah.
But that makes it.
I know. Well, I started realizing that they were important to the story a little bit.
Yeah.
So then I started reading them or going back and reading them.
Well, yeah,
But-
because in like real books, I mean, footnotes are like, oh, this is a reference to this or whatever. But
Yeah.
in this book, it's like,
they're important to read.
Yeah,
It's,
they're-
the stories start out really funny, and then they get more serious as you
Oh,
go,
okay.
and the
Yeah.
humor kind of starts being moved to the footnotes. So you
Yeah.
can kind of see if you need a little humor break, you go down there.
Yeah.
but I don't know if it's the whole first book, but just came out as a animated series.
Yeah.
Oh,
it
that's
did.
right.
Have
Yeah.
you guys seen that yet?
No,
or-
I've seen
I watched a clip.
trailers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it the whole?
I think they're planning on doing the whole
Okay.
thing. I don't
It's
know.
the
if-
same people that did The Chosen, apparently. So
Yeah.
But-
It looks pretty good, but I would definitely recommend just like reading the books through with your family. He's a Christian author, which what I'll bring up is that no one told me that. So I just kept hearing like, you need to read Wingfeather. So finally I was like, okay, I'm going to embark on this adventure. And then I started getting suspicious because of the worldview coming through. And so I was like, I'm going to look up the worldview of this author or like see if I can find anything out about him. And then it was like, oh, he's very obviously
Yeah,
Christian.
he's like a worship leader.
'Cause,
Yeah,
what-
like
'cause what's his
writing
band?
books for-
Do you know what his band he was part of?
Oh, I forgot. I don't
What's
know.
his
Yeah, I
name? What's
can't
his name?
remember.
But
Andrew Peterson.
I think that, I mean, you guys have talked about Christian art, Christian movies and stuff, and like
Yeah.
this one, it's so well written. Like I cannot stress enough. He is so aware of like kind of like the nameless horror thing. Like he's drawing on a lot of tropes and things that if you read fantasy novels, like I would say maybe if you're not putting him on the shelf alongside Narnia, he's certainly in the Succession. Like
That's what I think. It's like
the-
it's one to have and read.
absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really good.
I think it's just
and
Andrew
revisit.
Peterson. He's just a musician.
Yeah.
I don't think he has
yeah.
a band. Sorry.
But yeah, and that's the thing is like as you go along, things start to unravel. I think it's easy a reread to pick up on new things. You sometimes like start to get interested in the backstories of other characters, and they become really important. And it is that fantasy kind of world building, which I love, but also these like really deep undertones.
So can you say, without spoiling it, why you suspected Christian like worldview in the story, or did you know?
I knew.
going
So
in?
Adrian, what did you? What made you realize?
Yeah, just the way that they were talking about like the old kingdom and the new kingdom, like things like just kind of that Christian worldview of,
Yeah.
especially when it takes place in like a kind of a kingdom, and so they're making references to
The maker.
the old king, the maker. Yeah, that was one of the biggest clues is like the making of the world. There is a maker. He gives each child a gift that makes them unique, but also a part of a whole as
Okay.
well. Like.
And then there's that scene where Jaina prays to receive his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Like, I think maybe that one. Put it over.
And just
That's not true.
and you'll see that it's like, okay, this is clearly like sin. This is the representation of sin.
The number one thing to me that I think makes the series different from other modern series is like most series, and this to me is like the Disney worldview is like there's the map within yourself and you can follow it. So it's like there's something in me that longs for something out there. And for Janner, like that is not the thing to listen to. Like it's the whole Wingfeather saga. They are given identities or things to do, and they may not feel like they can do it, or it may not be their preference internally, and they have to step up to it anyway. Like there's this sense of like it doesn't matter if you feel like you're able to fulfill that role, or you look sideways and like, I don't think he can fulfill the role he's been given. Like there's a lot of that relational stuff going on, and I feel like part of the Christian worldview is like there's something outside of yourself that you're, held to, rather than saying like, because I can feel like I don't really match this, then I go out and find reality. I
would say every character faces a dying to self
100%
worldview trope. Like, it's not even a trope, but like a Christian moment of like dying to themselves.
I want to do this, but I'm being told to do this, and that's going to be better for me, but I still want to do this thing that I want to do. Okay.
And doing the right thing is hard. Like there's a lot of sad, hard things that they have to do, but I think like he does a really good job showing the beauty in that, or the glory in it, because it's not just like a slog. Like when there's so much growth that happens to the characters, and you can see in their relationships, like it's very rewarding. I mean, the world rewards obedience in a way. That's where I was like, this is Christian. That just feels really different.
So Wingfeather Saga. So I mean, you can get the library, or the Hoopla. Or if your library has those apps.
But they don't have the fourth one.
Oh, they don't?
No,
Is
they
that
just have 1 through 3.
Out recently, or because these are like a couple years old, aren't they? So
I don't know. For some reason, they don't have the fourth one, but just buy it. Just buy the series for real.
Because didn't they kickstart the fourth one or something? There was something about like he wasn't.
It was on Kickstarter.
I think all of them were.
Oh, were they? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know like it started picking up steam or whatever by the third or fourth one, and so.
Well, so Hanning, you had a good question that you wanted to.
All right, so here's my question.
Table.
I feel like that one of the biggest themes in the story is like each of the children are given something that they're always studying. It's called the 3 honorable and great subjects. It's word, form, and song. And so they're always practicing this. And by the end of the series, like art, writing, music, these things are so important for like music in particular. I think because the author is a musician, it's like it recalls people to themselves. It changes the reality. Like all the enemies, cannot handle the music of these like old songs. It's almost like ammunition in a battle. Like, and there's so much of that. And so I was thinking, are there songs or stories or scenes that are in your imagination, and because you watch that, read that, listen to that, when you go through something hard, it gets you through? That's my question. What are the things that have gotten you through hard times, like from art, music, movies, etc.?
You got something? Because I don't. I got to think about it.
Well, we talked about this question previously. Like before.
Great!
So we were trying
to think about it.
So we were trying to brainstorm, and it was kind of hard for me, but I realized there was certain things and certain, like, depending on what type of thing I am going through, like maybe those like repeatable hard times that come up through life. But one of both of our like mutual ones is Lord of the Rings, but for different reasons, which I think is cool. But I actually relate a lot to the character Pippin, and because
Pippin.
he's very actually super vital to the story, and you could argue that like without him, or even all the characters actually, without each character doing the role that they were doing, like none of the whole story wouldn't have happened. So Pippin is a part of that. So without him, very important things wouldn't have moved along, but he's constantly like dismissed, or he makes these kind of silly mistakes, or people see him as like the kind of the silly one or the more immature one. And so I feel like there are moments in my life where I feel like that, or that like I'm not necessarily being valued for what I bring to the table or something. And in those times, I do think about Pippin and be like, okay, I'm still part of a larger story. So I may be having a moment where I am backsliding or, you know, making a bad mistake, but like I know that this is something I'll get through and I still have a larger part to play. Like God's still going to use me. So I would say that's one of them.
Pippin. Not the when they were musical Pippin.
Yes.
Not that one.
Not that one.
So something that got you through something, or something that you
kind of draw from it for inspiration. Like I can name a bunch that are just different kinds. Like The Matrix. At the beginning of The Matrix, Trinity is like running around and being chased, and at one time she falls down the stairs, or like gets knocked down through something, and she's laying on the ground, and she's like, "Get up, Trinity, get up!" And then she like starts running on the roof.
Yeah.
And when I'm like exhausted, not wanting to go to bed, it's like that is in my head. Get up, Trinity. Like that. I mean, more seriously, I feel like there's a lot of things in The Lord of the Rings or in certain stories that, talking about death or grieving or certain things, it's like it's in my imagination, and I can't undo that. Like those things that I grew up that sort of gave me those images. I mean, that's something that I feel like in Wingfeather they understand. It's like, you're going to go out in the world, and for now I'm just saturating you with these stories, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, something that I appreciate about our church, like one of the core values is we believe in artful creativity because God's world and his words show that he is the original artist. And that's something that, like, when you're talking about like that inspiration and that stuff, like, because we've talked about this before with Christian art versus art that's Christian. Like, originally, like, the best artists were like Christians and like worked those themes into the stuff that they did, whether blatantly or not. And so when you were talking about that, I'm like, that's what like we as a church desire to do, to like make good art so that people are inspired and things like that. So for me personally, man, I've got weird ones that Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Cameron's story in that. Have you guys seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Yeah.
So, because as a youth pastor, like watching that, and I think I watched it before I was in youth ministry, but seeing his story, like, and that kind of becomes the main story of like a kid that is, I don't necessarily abused by his dad, but kind of pushed aside by his dad. And he kind of has to come to this moment of, do I even want to live in this? And then he kind of like, he's always sick. He's always like worried. And then they wreck the dad's car, which is his like loves more than everything. And so spoiler for Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You can't see it. But and it's just this moment of like where Ferris is like, oh, I'll get you out of it and stuff. And he's like, no, I've got to do this. And you kind of see his transformation as a character. The other one that I don't recommend this one, but I watched it at Taylor. It was the Integration of Faith and Culture, the IFC.
Oh, yeah.
So they showed this movie. It's called Harold and Maude, and it is a bizarro movie. But it's a.
I think we all watched that because you liked it.
Oh man, I'm sorry, but in it there's a I think he's 19 or something, and he falls in love with this like 79-year-old woman. Like it's this really bizarre love story, but the whole story is people missing the point on who he really is. And so like his whole movie, he's trying to find purpose, and he does it in bad ways. But like at the end, like you kind of realize, like he comes to this realization that like the life that he thought was good, like was selfish and awful. And so when I work with students, like those movies kind of come to mind of like their kids are in process, and like a lot of them are acting out and doing things, and like you're like, these kids are awful, but you're like, okay, but what are they really going through, and what could be the end results because of those things? And so that's when, like, for my job, like that's the kind of things I draw from. But personally, Daylight by Brave Saint Saturn. I don't know. That's one of those songs that like I'll just listen to, and I haven't listened to it in a while, so now I need to go and listen to it again because it's come up a couple times because people are like, what's your favorite song? I was like, it's that one, and it's just it's a great song by Brave Saint Saturn. I can recommend it. It's good, but you kind of need to listen to like the whole album.
The whole album is what makes the song so good.
Oh, nice.
So it's great, but you can listen to it alone. But it's fantastic. But that's a good question. I mean, draw inspiration.
I honestly, reading the Wingfeather Saga it has affected me a lot on this subject, because I feel like if I have to choose between my kids getting, like, let's say if you had to choose between giving your child either all the intellectual right answers, like apologetics and ideas and opinions and politics and all this stuff, they're like set for that, or just like the creative, the imagination, beauty, all of that, you know, like where you're kind of putting your emphasis. And like in the Bible, having both, like you can teach the Bible as like the story, the poetry, you can draw attention to the beauty, or you can be like, here is the theology, you know? And obviously the answer is both. But I think for a lot of us, it was like getting our ideas and opinions formed within the church, but our imaginations formed outside of it. And then being like all of my ideas and the things that are beautiful and everything, like that'll draw you, you know? And that's like what you go to for relaxation and kind of forming your taste and your identity and all of that stuff,
and
you know?
it could attribute to why a lot of people go through deconstruction or wrestling with their faith, because I think what you said, is like super true. With you gain all the knowledge, but then there's this whole beauty aspect, that there's a lot of beauty outside of the Christian church, like in terms of, you know, art and movies and music and all of that. But and so we're trying to like reconcile the two, because like Christian art.
And it's not about, like, in my opinion, it's not about them in conflict. Like, that's why you guys are talking about secular art, and some of it is really exciting and good. Like, the Christian worldview can contain all beauty, you know? And so in doing that and training, like, no, this is our domain as well. Like, I think that's what's really exciting.
Right, that's important.
You don't have to give that up, but you do have to think about it Christianly.
Christianly? So I don't know if that's a word, but
we make up new words every week.
Yeah, I know.
So, but one of the things that, I mean, I don't know the chapter or reference, but like in the Bible it talks about eternity was written on the hearts of men, and so, and women. But I think it's one of those things that, like, the reason that a lot of secular stuff ends up telling the story of God is like, oh, because it's written in us. Like there is something beyond us that we want to be a part of, and a bigger story that we want to tell, and all that stuff, because it was written on our hearts. And so we, even if people are very secular, like there's still those elements that you can still pull from. And so now that doesn't mean we go and watch everything like, oh, it's fine. But but it's like, okay, there are elements of the gospel and all that stuff. And so one more I thought of, where like it's probably one of it might be my favorite piece of media, like Over the Garden Wall. Like, fantastic. So have you seen that?
Explain. No.
Oh man,
I'm surprised he hasn't made his influence all the way to Minnesota.
Because it's a mini series on Cartoon Network. It was on Max, and then like
voiced by Elijah Wood.
Elijah Wood is voicing it. Christopher, who's the Marty McFly. Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd.
It's got a phenomenal voice cast. It is bizarro. It is really weird, but it's like 10-minute episodes. You can watch the whole thing in a couple hours, like maybe an hour and a half. So
maybe that's what we'll watch.
But again, it's another coming of age story. So it starts off with like these two brothers, like they're half brothers, and one's small and annoying, and the other one is like the leader or whatever. And so they're lost in the woods, and so they're just trying to find their way back. But it's like, as the story weaves on, you're like, this is getting weirder and weirder. And then there comes a moment where you like start to realize, oh, okay, now it's starting to make more sense. But one, it's super funny, but like the overall like story is, I don't know, it's beautiful. And so my friend has a tattoo of it.
Really?
Oh yeah, of Wirt, the main guy. He's got a cone hat and a cape. Yeah. But I mean, it's so good. And so, but
Can you tell us the worldview without spoiling it?
It is, I mean, it's this kid finding out like what it means to actually be a leader, and like what it means to take charge of like even people you don't like, because he does not like his brother, and his brother's annoying, and so starting to realize like how he can lead. It
sounds very Wingfeathery.
Oh, maybe it's, I don't know, maybe that's where he got. But it's, and then even the little kid, Greg. Oh man, it's so funny. But he's got a little teapot on his head, and candy in his pants. Candy pants. So the whole, so it's like him also realizing like, oh, I need to take responsibility for my actions as well, and like it's fantastic. So I don't know. I will do a whole episode on this because I love it. it, and Adrian won't watch it because
okay, we're doing a whole episode on it.
I'm just
obviously
kidding,
going to
there's
watch
there's a
it.
little spookies in it, but no, I like around Halloween we'll watch it. But I watch it every year in the fall.
I watched the first episode and I was like, I'm too creeped out. I'm not
Oh
watching
man!
it.
But the music, fantastic too. Like it's sorry, I can't talk enough about the show. But all right, sorry. What else? Sorry, we got.
I think that's the.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I'm stealing this from Adrian because you asked me this question, but the main character Janner being like he's the oldest brother, and he is responsible for the others, and like especially the first book, but really all of them. It's so much. I feel like for me, a lot of times the main character in fantasy stories, they are like held back somewhat, and they're trying to go out, But the thing with Janner is that he's not actually a very free-thinking character. His brother is a lot more bold. Mm-hmm. And instead, he's kind of a cautious character and a very responsible character. And I feel like having someone who is responsible and still feels held back by his responsibilities, like he's worrying about them and he's doing these things, but he's also charged with it and gets mad about it, Yeah. And so my question to you guys as siblings is whether you ever felt like your actions, you're like, here's my sister, here's my brother, like I gotta be thinking of them.
Well, I already told this, but when I wasn't allowed to play a certain video game because it was rated T for teen and had a little blood in it, held me back. Adrian.
Why'd you blame me though? That is like blame it on mom or dad.
No, it's because you were too weak.
Because I existed.
You were too weak to handle the blood. I was like, I don't know. It wasn't that much blood.
Yes.
So if I ever felt held back, I don't know.
Or conscious of your influence.
Like, did you ever have to babysit me or watch me? Was I I do have memories of me playing video games. Like me wanting to play video games when your friends had video game nights and I wanted to play Mario Kart with you. Like, was that annoying? Confess right now.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that. I remember Nathan pushing me away some when his friends were over.
Oh, okay.
But I don't remember. I don't know. Did you annoy me?
What's the age gap between you?
6 years.
Okay.
So that's probably, I don't know. Cause I feel like I did a lot of stuff with you and Angela when you were dating.
Yeah.
And so was that I don't even know because I was so young.
We also dated 9 years.
Right.
So you're better than
I was 5 years old when you guys started dating.
Were you? No, you weren't.
I was 10 though, or something. But was it oh gosh, we gotta take my sister?
I don't I really don't look back on stuff like that. I'm like, oh, you're annoying.
I had to do this, or
I don't think so. I would scare you and your friends, and I don't know if that was. I didn't.
You did that on purpose, not because you felt obligated to.
Yeah, I didn't feel obligated. I feel obligation to scare you guys. No, I don't think there was anything that. I don't recall. Did you?
No,
I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe this is behind getting into youth ministry.
We need to phone
because I feel like I'm an oldest of 3. And I feel like a lot of the relationships that I had with them and the feeling of responsibility, with the Janner, it's I definitely took that into my life as far as being whoever's in the room, I feel responsible for them. Or oh, that person over there is quiet or not getting, involved and I got to go.
Oh, see, I do that. I do that with people, but I don't know if it was from that. But
that thing over there.
No, from that relationship of growing up, feeling responsible.
Maybe that's why you're in youth ministry, because of me.
Because she's so much younger.
That's it. You did it.
I remember. Here's why I remember in the story. We were at camp, and you were one of the leaders, and I was a camp kid, and I was having some hard time, and I remember you saying, how much time do you spend reading Harry Potter? And how much time do you spend reading the Bible? It convicted me to my core.
Oh, man.
So maybe you did become a youth minister because of me.
I don't remember that at all. That's great. That was good. Harry Potter and the Gospel. We'll have to talk about that one episode too. But wait. Okay, so I don't remember that. Good job.
Well, it was impactful for me.
So yeah, but and that's because I think because of the 6-year age gap, it wasn't because like watching my oldest two, like it's so close that it's like when they have friends over, like one kind of wants to be with the other one, like that kind of thing, and so you're like but with 6 years, I don't know, I didn't remember it.
Yeah,
being
your
I
own
feel
space.
like the large age gap probably plays a different role.
It's helpful, but my 5-year-old annoys the older two just fine.
Yeah.
And he'll go in like because Quincy will have friends over, and he'll like run in the room and be like, hey, like and he'll be like, you're so cute, I love you, and like hug them, and they're like, oh, he's great. And Quincy's like, get out of here, like, and which I understand because it's like, and we're like, Shepard, give them their space and all this stuff. And so I'm seeing that with my kids, definitely of like that kind of thing. But yeah, but the responsibility, I don't feel like I felt that much because I don't know.
Yeah.
You were 6.
But there you go.
I was 6.
That's the answer.
So don't feel responsible for your siblings. But well, Hannah,
No, you should.
thanks for joining us all the way from Minnesota. So
Thanks for having me.
yeah, and well, farewell to Jimmy. No, he'll be back. We'll be
We'll
back
be
next
back
week.
next week.
So
Normal host next week.
normal host. But all right, I'm Chris.
I'm Adrian,
I'm Hannah.
aka Jimmy.
All right, we'll see you next time.